It's strange how a single morning can shift the way you see everything. I never imagined that something as ordinary as breakfast could carry a conversation I'd replay in my mind for the rest of my life. Yet that's exactly what happened. One moment I was still groggy, rubbing the sleep from my eyes, and the next, I found myself staring across the table at my son. My heart felt caught between pride, concern, and something I couldn't quite name. What he said that morning stirred something deep inside me. Before I tell you, I want to know, where are you watching from? I love seeing how far these stories travel and hearing from different corners of the world, so leave your city in the comments. It was a cool spring morning, the kind where the sunlight feels softer, almost shy, peeking through the curtains. I was still curled under the covers, stretching out the quiet before the day began, when I heard a faint clatter from the kitchen. At first, I thought it might be the wind rattling the loose frame of my old kitchen window. But then came the clear sound of a frying pan being set on the stove. That made me frown, because in this house, I've always been the one who cooks. My son Daniel, now 40, never had much interest in the kitchen, unless you count microwaving instant noodles when he was a boy. Curious, I padded down the hallway, and as I neared the kitchen, the warm scent of eggs met me, along with something sweeter beneath it. Cinnamon, perhaps. Leaning against the doorway, I watched before he noticed me. Daniel stood at the stove, broad-shouldered in that old blue sweatshirt I'd bought him years ago. His hair was slightly tousled, and there was a smudge of what looked like flour on his cheek. On the counter sat a plate of golden toast, steam curling from it, next to a small vase holding a single daffodil. "Morning, Mom," he said without turning, as if making breakfast for me was the most natural thing in the world. "Well," I replied slowly, "this is a surprise." He chuckled under his breath. "Thought I'd do something nice for you. You've seemed tired lately." That caught me off guard. I hadn't realized it showed. Between the ache in my knees, restless nights, and the quiet weight of living alone after his father passed, I suppose I had slowed down without meaning to. Daniel plated the eggs and slid them toward me. "Sit," he said, in the same tone he'd use as a little boy pretending to run a restaurant. Sat. The toast was perfectly crisp, the eggs slightly overdone but fragrant. Apple slices were arranged in a neat fan on the side, as though he'd taken extra care. I couldn't help but smile. "You didn't have to do all this," I told him. "I wanted to." He took his seat across from me, cupping his coffee between his hands. For a while, we ate in the kind of silence that only exists between people who know each other deeply. But I noticed he barely touched his food, just sipped his coffee and glanced at me with a look that felt weighted. "Something on your mind?" I asked, setting down my fork. He hesitated, fingers tapping his mug. "Yeah, actually." The pause that followed was long enough to make my chest tighten. The air seemed heavier, as though even the morning sun was waiting for his next words. Then he spoke, and the cinnamon sweetness in the air seemed to sharpen into something else. What he said didn't come as a shock exactly, but it was a truth that had been building quietly for a long time. I didn't answer right away. My grip tightened on my coffee cup, and the ticking of the wall clock sounded unusually loud. I sensed that whatever came next wasn't just about breakfast. It was about something deeper we'd both been avoiding. I met his eyes, noticing a softness there I hadn't seen in years. "Daniel," I asked gently, "what do you mean by that?" He shifted in his chair, the wood creaking. "I've been thinking about you a lot lately, about us. About how much you've done for me and how little I've told you that." My throat tightened. Daniel had always been a man of action, not words, just like his father. He looked down into his coffee. "You've been alone for a while now, Mom. And I've been so wrapped up in my own life that I didn't notice how much you've been carrying by yourself." I didn't know what to say. The kitchen felt smaller, the scent of eggs mingling with the faint perfume of the daffodil. "You've always been strong," he continued. "You never asked for help, even when you needed it. But I see you. I see everything you've done, and I'm grateful." His voice cracked and my chest ached. I reached across the table, brushing my hand against his, feeling the warmth of it, steady and familiar. In that moment, I could almost see the little boy who used to bring me flowers from the yard, roots still dusted with dirt. "Daniel," I said softly, "you don't owe me anything. You're my son. We take care of each other." He shook his head. "It's more than that. I think it's time I'm here for you in a different way. Not just fixing things around the house but really being here. Cooking. Spending more time together. I don't want us to just drift into seeing each other on holidays." His words felt like the weight of a warm blanket settling on my shoulders. I hadn't realized how much I missed having real, unhurried conversations with him. "You started off strong," I said with a faint smile. "Breakfast and all." He laughed, though there was still a seriousness in his gaze. "There's something else I wanted to tell you, but I didn't want to blurt it out. I thought breakfast might make it easier." "Did it?" "Yes. Maybe," he said with a small grin. "Or maybe it just made me more nervous." The sunlight through the curtains had grown brighter, striping the table in gold. Outside, a dog barked faintly, but inside the air was still. "All right," I said, setting my coffee down. "You have my attention." He looked at me, really looked, and I could tell this wasn't just about gratitude. Whatever it was had been on his mind for some time. Then he took a deep breath. "Mom, I've decided I want to move back here. Live with you." For a moment, the words simply hung there. Daniel hadn't lived under this roof since he was 22. "Move back here," I repeated. "What about your apartment, your job?" "I can work remotely now," he said. "The company's restructuring, and they gave me the choice to travel less or take a payout. I stayed, but I've been feeling disconnected. I go home to empty rooms." I thought, why not be somewhere that matters? My emotions tangled. Pride, concern, and a quiet warmth at the thought of not eating dinner alone anymore. Still, the mother in me spoke. "Are you sure you're not doing this out of guilt? I don't want you to throw your life into chaos just to take care of me." "It's not guilt," he said with that half-smile I remembered from his teenage years. "It's what I want. You've always been there for me. I want to be here for you, not just as a son who visits on birthdays, but as someone you share your days with." His words settled in me like sunlight thawing cold ground. I glanced at the daffodil between us, its petals reaching for the light. "If you do move back," I said, "it won't be like when you were 22. We'll have to find our rhythm. Two adults sharing a home isn't always simple." "I know," he replied. "But it's worth figuring out." For the first time in years, I felt a spark of anticipation, not for safety or routine, but for change. I studied him. "Daniel, is there another reason you want to come back?" He hesitated just long enough to confirm my suspicion. "There is," he admitted quietly. The ticking clock seemed louder, each second pulling me closer to his truth. "Mom," he began, "I've realized time is the one thing we can't get back. I've spent years chasing deadlines, and I missed moments with you I can't replace. I don't want to keep doing that. When Dad passed, I stayed for a while, and even in the hardest days we talked and laughed. I've missed that. I've missed you." I placed my hand over his, feeling his steady grip. "Daniel," I murmured, "you have your own life. I never wanted you to feel tied here." "It's not about being tied," he said. "It's about choosing. And I choose this. I choose you." By then, sunlight had poured across the table, warming the daffodil until it seemed to glow. I knew this was one of those rare moments when you feel the change as it's happening, when you know you'll look back and say, that was the day everything turned. I took a slow breath. "All right. If you're sure, let's do it. Let's make this your home again." His smile softened the edges life had carved into his face. We finished our breakfast, the eggs now cold but tasting better than anything I'd had in months. Our talk drifted to lighter things, where he'd set up his desk, which room he'd take, whether we should repaint. But underneath, there was the steady hum of something bigger, knowing neither of us would face our days alone again. Later, after he left to start packing, I lingered at the table. The daffodil sat between my empty plate and his half-full coffee mug. The house was quiet once more, but it felt different, less hollow, as if it were holding its breath for what was to come. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like life was passing me by. I felt like it was just about to begin.